pod bay doors, please, Hal.
If we do get a new friend, he should be a guy you can trust. You know, a guy who has your back.
And he should have a lot of money and live in a cool place down by the beach where we could throw parties.
We should share our love of technology.
And he should know a lot of women.
Okay, let's see. Money, women, technology. Okay, we're agreed. Our new friend is going to be Iron Man.
The pod bay doors are open. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Jerry Dean Roberts of ArmchairCinema.com and also overthinkingoscars.wordpress.com. Here with my Iron Man co-host, the critic for TalkMovieMe.com, the one and only Mr. Doug Heller. How the heck are you today, sir?
No, you're missing the point. There's no throne. There's no version of this where you come out on top. Maybe your army comes, and maybe it's too much for us. But it's all on you. Because if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
I like that. And you know what? I just watched episode 3. So, I just watched Star Wars episode 3, so that's a welcome.
I was actually watching the Avengers just before we started this. I was like, oh, I'll give that another run. I enjoy the Avengers quite a bit.
Well, we do this every year in the month of May.
In the
we do
month of May.
Yes, the very month of May. We do a theme, usually a franchise. Mm-hmm. Although I hate that word. We do a franchise every year. And this year, was it the first year we did, the Star Trek movies?
Yeah, we did Star Trek, then Star Wars, and now...
Now we're tackling the entire MCU.
In 4 weeks.
As it is now.
Right. We're recording this during the postponement of Black Widow, so that has not yet...
Has not come out yet.
Right. We don't know when it will.
We had actually planned to add that to the end of this, but we're doing 4 shows. We're doing this week. We're going to talk about Phase 1. Next week we're going to talk about Phase 2, and then the other 2 weeks will be Phase 3 broken up into 2 parts because that's like 10 films.
Yeah, and we
like
needed something
10, 15
for the 4th
films.
week, so yeah, it actually works out pretty well. We have to figure out if we're going to do Infinity War in week 3 or week 4, because if we do Infinity War in week 4, then we've got to do Infinity War, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, and Endgame all together in one.
The lucky thing is we've already talked about Infinity War and Endgame.
That's true.
So we did special episodes on that. But yeah, this week we got 6 films to cover, so this is Phase 1.
In which Doris gets her oats.
I'm just going to say this.
Beatles joke.
Yes. I'm just going to say this. I love these movies.
I do too. There's a few missteps, but
they are.
I genuinely enjoy. I don't think there's any one of them that I don't enjoy at least a little part of.
Yeah. None of them are unwatchable.
No. Even The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. None of them are really unwatchable. They're all they all have their own thing. Mm-hmm. But boy, did it start off with a bang.
Oh, Iron Man was so good.
Nobody expected Iron Man. And I was so optimistic because this came out.
Inquisition, but
yes. No one expected this because this came out the same year as Dark Knight.
Dark Knight Rises, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it? No, it was Dark Knight.
No, Dark Knight was in 2008. Oh yeah, that's right. I was thinking about the Avengers. Yeah, no, same year.
Both of them were in. Both of them were in 2008. And boy, talking about taking a shaky genre that Hollywood was for years afraid of.
Yeah, and completely upending it in one year.
Well, they knew what to do with it.
Yeah.
They knew how to play their characters. And this, by the way, was not made by Disney. The films that we're talking about today, I think most of them were not made by Disney. This is by Paramount.
Right, but they were all done by Marvel Studios.
Right.
Who kept their hand in everything except for the Incredible Hulk. They kept the character, but they don't have rights to the film somehow.
Right.
But officially, the Avengers is the first Disney MCU picture, but it was done largely before the acquisition.
Yeah, when I was watching all of these, because they're by Paramount, because when I was watching all of these, I was surprised because they weren't Disney. They didn't have the Disney. They didn't have the Disney logo on them. I'm not sure exactly when the acquisition happened. I know
it happened around 2012 because it happened just before the Avengers was in production when Disney bought Marvel.
Yeah.
And so, but the first one that they actually put their money into was Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
So Disney became the sugar daddy in Phase 2.
I'm going to tell you something about Iron Man. It's such a wonderful movie, but I think it's largely kind of a lucky break because they can't make a sequel to this to save their life. I mean, they cannot make a good sequel to this at all. This movie, I'm going to tell you something. I was watching this the other night. I'm so thankful that RDJ got his life together.
If he had not, yeah,
he could have been Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah,
he could have gone, or Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
we could have lost him.
Before we ever really knew what he could do, too, because he was
right.
He's
always been a good actor.
Oh yeah, but he's always been at his end. He was at his end, drug wise, at less than the peak of his career.
Right.
So,
and I mean, he got it together, and
every once in a while he would get it together. Like he would do really well, and then he'd get Chaplin, and then he'd go into another spiral, and then he got he got out of it, and he got Ally McBeal, and then he went into another spiral. And he got out of it, and then he got out of it for good, and ended up landing Tony Stark, which is the role he will be remembered for.
He was born to play this role.
Yes, he was. When they cast it, I was like, well, there's no other person in Hollywood that is more apropos.
Right.
Especially if they had decided, and I wish they kind of had, to go into his alcoholism.
Yeah. That would have been a little too on the nose. Would have been a little too...
But it would have still been perfectly cast and something I think that would have been good for the character. But the way that they arced him, the way that his arc ended up, was really good.
I like the fact that he is who he is, and he's such a flywheel without substance abuse.
Right, yeah.
What I love about this is there are 3 characters in this movie. There's Tony Stark, there's Pepper Potts, and there's, I love this name, Obadiah Stane. I love that name.
Yeah.
And none of them feel tacked into this movie.
No, and even Rhodey.
Right. Poor Terrence Howard.
Played here by Terrence Howard, who does a remarkable... I would have loved to have seen him in all of them.
I like Don Cheadle,
but I also love Don Cheadle and would have kind of think that it would have been cool for him to be Rhodey from the beginning. So
the reason that Terrence Howard didn't come back was simply based on the fact that they didn't call him.
Right. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
They just replaced him.
Yeah.
Which I think was an unceremonious screw you to a very good actor.
An excellent actor, and honestly, one that was probably less expensive than Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
I mean, not for nothing, but I mean, they both had their Oscar nominations by then, but still.
And I love the fact that this does not happen in superhero movies very often. That you have characters who feel like they've known each other for years.
There's a lot of intimacy and a lot of natural banter, specifically between Tony and Pepper and Tony and Jarvis.
Yeah.
The play that he gets off of Paul Bettany is just beautiful throughout all of them.
The great arcing love story between him and Pepper is the fact that she knows he's this suicidal goofball he's this flywheel who's going to kill himself. And you get the sense of a relationship that has gone on for years.
Yeah.
And this is what it has whittled down to. He's not serious about anything.
Nothing at all.
But you also, and this is very rare, and I can't say this about any other superhero, you feel like there's a corporation actually at work.
Yeah.
Because when you watch Green Arrow, when you watch Arrow, you don't sense that there's a corporation going on.
When you watch Arrow, you don't get a sense of a whole lot going on other
Right.
than the fact that he's shirtless and he's jumping up on that little bar thingy.
And he looks good.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I'll be
I'm
honest
really
with
glad
you.
that show's over.
As much as I love Nolan's Batman movies, I never sensed Wayne Industries going on behind him. I never sensed that he was part of that corporation.
He's never been part of that corporation, but in The Dark Knight, I sensed it going on.
It felt more like a government entity. But I sensed Stark Industries happening.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful way to do it. But the star of this movie, the real center star of this movie, is Robert Downey Jr.'s mouth.
Yeah.
He is so comfortable in this role.
Oh, yeah. He's
In every one of these films.
Yeah. He was born for this role.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, this is also the year that he got his second Oscar nomination, isn't it, for Tropic Thunder?
Was this for Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
Playing a white man
who's a method actor so much to the extreme that he gets his skin pigmented so that he can play a black man. I'm the dude playing the other dude who's really the other dude. Who are you?
Start quoting the Jeffersons.
Yeah, that was a. I love Tropic Thunder. I haven't watched that in forever. But
What's interesting to me is, and you're probably going to disagree with me on this. I actually believed this 2,000-pound suit flying around more in the special effects more than I did in Spider-Man's zipping around New York. I don't know why.
the first Spider-Man?
I'm talking
From
about all the
2002?
Spiders.
All
I
of
can
them?
never really believe that there's a guy flipping around on webs.
Wow.
But I can believe this somehow.
Well, because this is
he's made a portable jet.
because he's a dude in a suit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like Batman. You can more readily picture a Batman than a Superman.
Mhm.
You know, it's just because when it's just people, it's
Yeah.
easier to think that this could happen in the real world, despite the fact that his technology is light years beyond our most advanced thought and concept.
Yeah.
He's got stuff that won't exist for another 60 years, just in his pocket.
And I love the fact that this movie just kind of overturns your. It is not your stock standard action movie. It actually has characters. It actually has good dialogue
and meaning.
and meaning. You actually care about what happens.
And it's topically relevant too, because of at the time in 2008, we were 7 years into an exhausting war in Afghanistan.
And it was a bold move to put the movie in that arena.
Yes, because we were still in that Osama bin Laden was still alive.
Hmm.
And usually films are not made of the conflict that you're currently in.
Right.
I mean, World War II, they did that because it was for morale.
But it doesn't stop the picture either.
Right, no, not even. It really helps the picture,
Right.
I think.
I like a character, I like a hero who's fallible.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see him at the beginning, and he's making that presentation, that awful presentation,
Oh.
where he's selling weapons effectively to the other side.
No, he's selling them to the American government. He's
But
selling
I
them
mean,
to the
it's
U.S. Army.
but they're going to the other side too. I mean,
But
because
he doesn't know that though.
because he gets captured and sees his name on the side of the box,
Right.
and he realizes,
Because Obadiah is selling it to them, not him.
right? Well, yeah, okay, but this rude awakening
Mm-hmm.
that you can't just do that. That the world is far more complex than that,
Right.
and the idea that who do you trust?
Right. Hubba hubba hubba. Who do you trust?
And Jeff Bridges is the villain because he smokes a cigar.
Right, and his head is shaved, and he's got the big beard. He's basically like a bigger version of me.
And I have to mention this. I have to mention this. When he's trying to build his own Iron Man suit, and he's yelling at that little kid, he's yelling at that little scientist,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Tony Stark built this in a cave." And he says, "Well," and the little guy says, "Well, sir, frankly, I'm not Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That's Ralphie from A Christmas Story."
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. That is Peter Billingsley, who screws over Spider-Man later on.
Yeah.
That's Ralphie.
Thanks, Ralphie.
It's Ralphie. But I love this movie so much. It was
It's
just
so good because just the construct, the way that it's put together, and the fact that I like that the hero changes his
Mhm.
ideas of what's going on very, very quickly.
Mhm.
The tragedy that he experiences actually affects him
Mhm.
in the moment.
and and this is something that goes throughout. He's consistently and persistently kicking himself
Oh yeah.
for what he's done. This is a theme that goes all the way through.
Oh yeah.
And I love the fact that, again, overturning the normal turn of these things. He just stands at a press conference and says, "I'm Iron Man."
Now, see, that was when I was rewatching this. Gonna say last month or maybe 2 months ago. I've been prepping for this for a little while.
So have I.
And that was going to be my quote. Something like, are we to believe that I'm some sort of superhero? I don't believe that. The truth is, I am Iron Man. And the movie ends.
Yeah.
And I have to say, look, Jon Favreau.
He's hit and miss, but when he hits, he's really
hits,
good.
he's phenomenal. I love this. I love The Jungle Book.
I loved Elf.
Elf and Zathura. Oh, I loved Zathura.
But then there's The Lion King,
There is The Lion King.
which I really don't think that was his fault.
I don't.
Because that was a dumb idea to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we should move on to the next one because, boy, it takes a step down in class. And I'm going to tell you something. if I said that Iron Man broke all the standards, I will say that the next film is nothing but standard.
The Incredible Hulk came in and reestablished them very, very quickly. While Iron Man was still in the theater.
This one is so far from Disney; it's not even on Disney Plus.
Well, the Universal won't give them the rights to stream it at least. But
it is in the MCU.
It is absolutely because it is referenced throughout.
And William Hurt is in it.
William Hurt is in it, and he reprises that character later in the Avengers.
And Tony Stark is in it.
Yes, and in the Avengers, Stark is like, "Hey, you should come by Stark Tower. The top 10 floors are all R&D." And he's like, "Yeah, the last time I went to New York, it didn't turn. I kind of broke Harlem."
He broke Harlem. And we got to talk about. We should mention the director because this guy,
Louis Leterrier, is just.
This is the man who made Transporter.
Oh. And let's not forget. Now, see, the worst thing that he has done, in my personal opinion, is Now You See Me. But he also did the remake of Clash of the Titans. He did the Transporter. Although one thing that he does actually have, one good thing that he does have his name on, is the Dark Crystal series that's on Netflix. Age of Resistance.
I'll say that of the films that he's made, I'll say the Incredible Hulk is probably the best, and that's not saying much.
It's not saying much at all.
Now I'm going to tell you this. Now I watched this the other day, and I was thinking, this is their attempt to give some dignity back to this property after Ang Lee. Which
do you not like Hulk?
I'm going to say that was their intention, because I'm going to say this. I actually kind of like Hulk.
I love Hulk. I genuinely do. I do own the Blu-ray. I actually bought Hulk on Blu-ray.
I actually like Hulk.
I do too.
Because this movie is missing what that movie included.
Yes.
And that was the parental conflict.
Right. This is nothing but a chase movie.
Well, but I'll say this. I was with it probably for the first 45 minutes.
I'm with it until
he turns into Hulk.
I'm with it until Tim Roth gets really kind of starts to get augmented.
Yeah, see, you're in it far longer than I am.
I am, yeah.
Because I like the idea that he's trying to figure it out. What they're doing, essentially, is they're trying to make it more in the spirit of the television show. Without the melancholy.
Which is kind of a huge mistake, because the show is good for its time, but it's not translatable now.
It's not. It's not. I like the character of Bruce Banner. I like him. I like his... Because, I mean, it's the idea of having this dual personality.
Right. Well,
and I like that...
It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But I like the... It's...
And, I love Ed Norton.
I do
Ed
too.
Norton's a stunning actor. He should not be in this movie.
But I'll tell you this. He does have a couple of lines of dialogue. And I like this scene too, when he is explaining to his girlfriend what happens when he's in the persona of the Hulk. And he starts talking about, it's like someone's pouring tons of acid in my brain. And he doesn't remember a lot of it. It's this overload in his head. What's interesting to me is that connects beautifully to Endgame, where he finally figures out how to be both.
How to balance the two, because his
Professor Hulk.
his performance issues in in Infinity War led to a conversation apparently between Bruce and Hulk,
Right.
which
But-
I get because he was Hulk for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You know, he got to actually live a life.
But this movie is so by the numbers.
Well,
Everything that has to happen happens, and nothing else.
see, Louis Leterrier, I think, actually directs via paint by numbers.
Hmm.
And let's not forget, this is a Zach Penn script.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the best thing he ever worked on was that fake documentary from 2006 with Werner Herzog about the Loch Ness Monster.
And that wasn't even all that good.
No, it wasn't, but it was probably his best. This, you know, maybe X2, could be his best screenplay, but
And that wasn't even all that great.
no, he's not. He's kind of the David S. Goyer of Marvel. He needs to. He needs
Yeah,
to just go
it's
away.
a very get there script.
Yeah.
The only original beat that it really has after the first probably half hour is I've never seen an action movie that takes place in Harlem. I mean, that's about the nicest thing I can say.
I've never seen an action movie that takes place in Harlem that has so few black people.
Yes. Yeah, seriously.
Where are
I mean,
they?
Yeah.
Where'd
yeah.
they go?
Just like that Tarzan.
although-
Just like that Disney Tarzan movie.
Yeah. Although I will say this, it is a very, very on the nose depiction of gentrification.
Very true. That is true. That is very
Because it's a whole lot of white people coming in and blowing up Harlem. That's gentrification right there.
right. Well, all of the action scenes, and I hate it when they do this. You have a character who is invulnerable, and they keep shooting at him,
Right.
and they keep throwing rockets at him, they keep shooting bullets at him, and none of it works, and they keep doing it.
Because it's all they know. It's all they have. I've always wondered about that, and then I kind of stopped to think about it. It's like, well, you know, it's the same reason that the idiots threw their guns at Superman. It's all they have, and they're gonna try everything to protect themselves. I don't know why he ducked.
You're all we've come to expect from the years of military training.
Yeah. So I mean, it's survival. I think
Yeah.
it's just we have this. Let's do this until it works. And you know, usually it's about Americans, and Americans
Yeah.
like to hit things until they work. We're very good at that, even though it usually takes a whole lot longer for things to work doing that.
Yeah. And
It's
can I
like-
just say, Liv Tyler, I'm sorry, she's beautiful, but she has one speed as an actress,
Yeah.
and that's to look emotional and sort of off in the distance. And it's just that she plays the exact same character in Lord of the Rings
Practically, yeah. And even
and every other movie.
Stealing Beauty, yeah.
Armageddon.
Well, because she has those huge expressive eyes
Yeah.
that just they're like, okay, look worried because you can do worried like perfectly. Like that's,
Watching the movie, I had to ask my wife, it's like, how did Steven Tyler produce a child?
that beautiful. I can't
That
understand
beautiful.
that. I've never been. And how on earth does that mouth work on her, but no one else in the world?
Well, I keep thinking back, this role was so much better played by Jennifer Connelly because she got a character to play.
Well, and Eric Bana was a better Bruce Banner than Ed Norton. Although I will say Mark Ruffalo is probably the best one.
I will say that at least Edward Norton is committed to the role.
He is.
He's not sleepwalking through
No,
it.
no.
I
He
just
doesn't sleepwalk through anything, whether he likes the
No.
project or not.
and he is a good actor.
he's a
He's
great
always a
actor.
committed actor.
He's a great actor. What was it when he was doing the Italian Job? He was doing the press for the Italian Job, and he goes, sometimes the work that you do isn't your best work,
Mhm.
and it may not be a great movie, but you'd go along. he's like trashing the movie while he's going. Oh, I'm trying to promote it.
Trashing it, but trying not to trash it.
Right. He's trying to delicately be like, look, I'm in this and I'm promoting it
Mhm.
because I have to.
And because I want somebody to be able to hire me for their next film.
Right. And
But he didn't. He did this. He really did this because he needed a hit.
yeah.
But he didn't want a series.
Hmm.
Again, it's paint by numbers. I like Hulk better because Hulk is about a character.
Right.
As
and
ridiculous as that movie sometimes can get.
Hulk dogs.
Yeah, the poodles.
Yeah.
As ridiculous as that movie sometimes can get, at least you sense that what Ang Lee was trying to get to was a conflict between father and son.
Mhm.
And that's not in this movie at all.
No.
It is, once it gets rolling, by the numbers, it's exactly what it's supposed to be, and nothing more. So, I mean...
The funny thing is, it kind of works as a weird sequel to Hulk.
It does, because he's in Portugal. He's in Portugal
Yeah, like
with this one.
I just found that very, very interesting. That it definitely could have been a sequel.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because Universal made both of them.
Yeah. This was at the beginning of the reboot,
Right.
the reboot era.
So I kind of think of this as a unofficial sequel to Hulk, and that
Yeah.
Hulk is an unofficial member of the MCU.
Right.
Just because the story basically picks up where Hulk left off,
It does. It does.
with him in the wind,
Mhm.
So I guess that's about all we can really say about the Incredible Hulk,
Because next we're going to take another step down.
So I like Thor to a point.
No, Thor was not next.
Oh,
The next film after
Iron Man
this...
2. I tried
the
to
next
forget
film was-
about Iron Man 2.
Yeah, the next one was Iron Man 2, and boy, oh boy.
I'll tell you what, the character stuff is pretty good.
Okay.
The stuff with Tony kind of trying to come to terms.
I like
and
that, yeah.
Finding the new element and trying to him connecting with his father in a way, and
And the fact that this device is poisoning his blood.
right. I really like that aspect of the film.
Yeah.
That's the part that I think is really solid and in keeping with the entire rest of the MCU. Unfortunately, the primary plot with was it Ivan Drago, whatever his name is? Yeah.
Bunko.
Oh yes.
Sounds like a computer company.
Yeah. Mickey Rourke, right in the middle of his very, very brief resurgence, same year that he got nominated for an Oscar for The Wrestler, that everybody on Earth thought he was going to win.
And justifiably so, because he was very good in that
brilliant.
movie.
Yeah, but
He's such a jerk in real life, they were like, we want to reward him.
yeah. He's never been particularly popular in
No.
Hollywood.
Never been particularly popular with me.
I've never really liked him either. But I did like him in The Wrestler.
Here's my problem. At every moment in this film, I can sense that when the studio saw the returns for Iron Man, they panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we got to strike while the iron is hot. And they thought, we've got to get this movie out. We got to get a sequel out. And we've got to get it out yesterday.
Right, and Feige already knew that there was going to be a sequel. Like this was not haphazard. But I think that they probably, because they had a distribution deal, they got it going a little bit faster. This is probably Favreau's worst film. After Made. I hate Made.
I can sense a lot of hands on it.
Mm-hmm.
Favreau's made a lot of bad movies. Made is one of them.
I hate that movie.
But I can sense a lot of corporate hands on this.
Yeah.
It's half written.
Mm-hmm.
It's mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing. This is an ugly little movie.
Yeah.
It's what I expected from the first one. It's just the Sam Rockwell character comes in and he's so unpleasant.
I like him for a villain because he is so unredeemably unpleasant.
He feels more like a henchman. He doesn't really.
He's just swarthy. He's smarmy. He's
But so is Jeff Bridges. But at least Jeff Bridges was engaging.
Yeah, I like what they wanted to do with the Hammer character.
Yeah.
I don't really like what ultimately happened with him, but I can see what they wanted to do with him and how that could have been good.
Mm.
But
again, I just find I find him so mean-spirited that to me he just stops the movie cold. And I like Sam Rockwell.
He's a wonderful actor. This one, it's a drag. I mean,
it is.
It just feels labored, and
they didn't really know what to do with the villain.
Right, and or which villain to actually make the primary.
Right.
Like,
right.
They didn't really need the Sam Rockwell character.
Right.
You know? But they had to get Hammer in there because that is his main competitor in the books.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that makes sense in this movie.
Yeah, the narrative is all over the place.
All over the place. And when something clicks, it clicks well. Unfortunately, there is very little clicking in this movie.
What does click and what would have worked better is the whole idea, this whole subplot going on with Stark and his father. With
and the
things
thing
that
poisoning him and
right, and the thing poisoning him and his relationship with Pepper and all of that. That's written so well,
yeah,
that the villain plot just kind of intrudes on all of that.
Right, it knocks it over. It becomes top heavy.
And so much so that the action scenes in this, I don't know if you noticed this, but the action scenes are over before they get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Particularly the end.
Yeah.
It's just
and the trying to work out the topography of the Stark Expo is virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Like, where are they in relation to each other? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I cannot. I can't track it.
Yeah.
And I try to. I've tried to since the theater. I saw this in the theater. I've seen this several times at home. I cannot track the action in this. Even the stuff at the beginning at the car race.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be in Monaco.
Yeah, but but I mean, just people in relation to each other. It doesn't even look like they were on the set at the same time. So it looks like they're in completely different spots, and it doesn't look like Mickey Rourke
filmed on different days.
Yeah. It's like what was it, season 4 of Arrested Development, Nobody was
Yeah.
in the same room at the same time, so they were just kind of shooting around and cutting it together. Nobody's playing off of each other in those.
You know what it feels
parts.
like? It feels like if you have a movie where I mean, you ever seen some of those movies where one of the actors dies
Mm-hmm.
and they're still trying to piece like one of the Hunger Games with Philip Seymour Hoffman
Like
or
the Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker, where they're trying their best to piece it together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the relationship between Stark and the Vonko character feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they were never in the studio at the same time. They were never.
Right.
It's like.
I would have liked this if it had been more of a bottle episode movie.
Yeah.
You know, if it had been very contained and been more of a personal drama.
Hmm.
Granted, now that would have continued to upend the hero genre.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the Iron Man 2 that we would have gotten if maybe Ryan Johnson had made.
Yeah. Now that would have been an epic. We're in love with Ryan Johnson's work, okay? This is the man who made Last Jedi and Brick, and Knives
and
Out.
Knives Out and Looper. Oof.
But yeah, it doesn't. Again, I find this movie very unpleasant.
It's a baffling picture because
It's a rushed
yes,
production.
Half of it is almost very good, and the other half of it is just not worth
Can
it.
I just say one good thing about this movie? I love to see Gary Shandling pissed off.
I
I love Gary Shandling in this.
I am endlessly entertained that he's one of my senators. He's a
Senator
senator
from
from
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Now I don't like that later he's a Hydra agent, but you know
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. And
But
knowing
technically, they're all Hydra agents.
That,
But he's very good at this.
mm-hmm.
You know.
Gary Shandling was always good.
Yeah, the late Gary Shandling.
I'm still very sad that he's gone. He was
Yeah.
always just
I loved his show. I
His
remember
show?
watching his.
the Larry Sanders Show, the Gary all of the
Yeah.
stuff that he did. He was so good.
Mm.
Um,
All right.
now we
Slip into what I'm going to guess is a disagreement.
not as big a one as I think you're thinking it will be.
Because I can't stand Thor.
Parts of it I think are fine. I like the establishment of the character.
Okay.
It gives them a bedrock of where to go. I wish they would have picked a story and gone with one of them instead of the 7 that they have.
Oh, you mean Crocodile Dundee?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I'm telling you. And I've seen this 3 times. There will not be a 4th. I love Kenneth Branagh. I think Kenneth Branagh, I really, really, really wish he would go back to Shakespeare.
Yeah, Branagh.
Branagh's a good director, but
he's-
nobody had any idea what to do here.
No, and so what he ended up doing was taking half of the picture. The parts that are in Asgard are very Shakespeare influenced.
The look, yeah.
The look, the language, the tone, the auspiciousness, it's very grand, it's very and then the Earth stuff is
Drops to Earth and can't get his hammer back.
it's a sitcom.
Hmm.
And taken individually, I like them.
Hmm.
Like if this was a TV series and they did one Thor
You
TV
know what?
if they did one Thor TV series that was really serious and in Asgard and then they did another one that was that was loopy on Earth, that is what these are.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned it because this feels like a TV pilot.
It does. It does. Very much
This
so.
movie is a mess.
Yeah, it is.
Every moment of it. Nobody had any idea who this character was.
No.
Nobody had any real idea what they wanted.
No. They didn't have a clear picture of him until the Avengers, and they didn't have a clear picture of what to do with him alone until Ragnarok.
I'm going to say this. Spoiler alert. I like the sequels. Because the sequels at least understood how ridiculous this whole thing of Asgard is.
Well, yeah, I once they replaced Brano as the director, the elements of tone resolved themselves.
Right.
It's just he didn't know how to blend the two,
No.
and as a result, you get two different hour-long movies stuck together. It's like exactly. It's like a 2-hour series premiere.
It's Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah, yeah. Where there's a good B story and a terrible A story.
There's an introduction to the characters,
Yeah,
their conflict, and then they face something down. It's not as interesting.
right.
And a lot of it, and I'm sorry, a lot of this movie is a lot of who cares.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when they're having their conflict with Odin, I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah, the stuff at the beginning would have worked a whole lot better if it wasn't at the beginning.
And Asgard in this movie looks like an album cover. It looks like a 70s album cover.
It does. It looks like they're very into Zeppelin on
Yeah.
on that. Like a Yes album cover, like a Roger Dean, like
ELO.
ELO.
But honestly, I'm looking at this, and I was looking at the Asgard scenes, and I'm thinking, I can't honestly believe that anybody lives here.
Yeah, it wasn't until the Dark World, and that you really kind of got a sense that
Right.
there were just regular Asgardians, like there are just regular people, and
Yeah.
and even that idea wasn't really furthered until Ragnarok,
Right.
where you got to see that Asgardians can be killed
Yeah.
fairly easily with their own weaponry, just not our stuff.
But it's just, I think this thing feels like somebody went on Google and said, what are the 10 most popular Marvel characters? And right at the top was Iron Man. And the next one down was Hulk. And then there was Thor. And they said, well, what do we do with Thor? Well, I don't know. Just do something.
Shakespeare in the Park.
Shakespeare in the Park.
Doth mother know thou weareth her drapes?
I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been set in Asgard, or if the Asgard stuff had been very brief, like I like the opening against the Frost Giants. That's a good opening.
That's a good opening.
That's a good opening. And if he then got banished out and said, "Okay, you can't come back until XYZ," and that's the last we saw of Asgard, that would have worked.
Look, the orientation of this movie is baffling.
All over the place.
Because I have no idea where I am. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know where these Bifrost creatures come from. Where is one thing in relation to another? And then they fall to Earth, and they're like in a town that's like out of one of the old Superman movies. And they're fighting this big behemoth that, again, another CGI, who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this, like I said, there are elements to this that I do enjoy.
Mm.
Um,
And poor
but
Natalie Portman.
there are just as many. I like this as much as I don't like it. I'll say
Let me
that.
tell you. Let me tell you this. It is a crime to waste Natalie Portman in anything.
Mm-hmm.
She drops out of this series pretty quickly.
Well, she's in the second one.
Yeah,
And
she's in the second one.
See, but she's going to be in the fourth one, and she's going to be Thor.
See, that's what I've been waiting for.
So
that should have happened by now.
She, my guess is they signed her for 3 movies and didn't know what to do with her.
Right.
They didn't sign her for any of the Avengers movies, so they couldn't bring her in like they did Pepper.
Mhm.
And she's too big a star,
Right.
you know.
She's too expensive.
Right. She already
But
won
I
an
mean,
Oscar.
it's Disney. Disney can afford her. I mean,
Well, yeah, obviously, but they probably didn't know what to do with her, and she probably didn't want to do it.
Right.
But they probably signed her for 3 movies, and since they only put her in 2, they're giving her her own movie.
she shows up in photographs and images in the other ones. Images are really feelings. But she shows up later in pictures, and it's like it just feels like they dropped her out. I think now they're wanting to do the put her back in as Thor because Captain Marvel did so well.
Mm-hmm.
Now they realize that a female character and Birds of Prey, they realize female characters, female superheroes can have their own movie.
And Wonder Woman.
And Wonder Woman.
Let's not forget Wonder Woman.
And it's just that's why is it taking so long?
I don't.
Again, Black Widow. Why is it taking so
Black
long?
Widow getting a movie in the 4th phase after her character is dead?
It's already
There's
dead.
nowhere for her to go.
Right.
There's no reason for me to care about a Black Widow movie because it should have been somewhere in phase 2.
It has Florence Pugh. I'm on board when it has Florence Pugh. Okay.
Well, and it has David Harborough and Rachel Weisz, and I mean, I
fell in love with Florence Pugh in Little Women and in Midsummer. So
like I'm glad that it was made. I'm be happy to see it eventually whenever we can, whenever it gets finally released.
they say November.
But it should, yeah, it won't be November. It should have been placed way earlier because it seems to be set somewhere maybe even before Infinity War.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it wasn't part of Phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Phase 3 is very overcrowded.
Yeah.
But
Phase 3 has a lot of. I don't even know how many films are in Phase 3.
I think they should have. They could have made Phase 3 into Phase 3 and Phase 4.
Yeah.
Because I think Infinity War should have ended Phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then they throw in a few more, maybe Black Widow, introduce Captain Marvel, introduce a couple of characters, and then do Endgame, and then...
The problem with introducing Captain Marvel is you have to be very careful with it because that's their Superman.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons she disappears from Endgame for so long. But the word that I use for Thor is soulless.
Yeah.
It has no. There's no.
It's all very. It feels like George Lucas had some sort of a hand in it.
Right. Well, George Lucas would have written a better story and better action scenes.
Yes, but not better dialogue.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a much happier occasion.
Oh, I love Captain America.
I love Captain America. I love First Avenger. This is such a wonderful movie.
It took me a little while to get on board with this. It took me a few watches because the first
Didn't
time
take
I saw
me
it,
any time at all.
look, I liked it the first time I saw it, and Chris Evans could not be more perfect. for
Oh, that
Steve
face
Rogers.
that face is kissed by the angels. I mean, just,
I mean, that is America's ass. Like
yeah,
that is
that's America's ass.
He's perfect in the role.
Yeah.
I think when the first time I saw it, I was underwhelmed by Joe Johnston's very average direction, as I always am with the Joe Johnston movie.
Let me tell you something. Watch this movie and immediately follow it with Rocketeer. It's the same movie. He directed both, and it's the same movie.
It's the same movie. And you know what? Rocketeer's always been pretty good.
It is a good movie.
But I appreciate it a lot more now, and especially in hindsight. This is far and away the third best movie in Phase 1.
Yeah.
And it's only the third best because the Avengers actually followed through on the promise that we were given.
It didn't turn into Justice League. The thing about this, it takes place in the 40s in World War II, and it has the feeling of a movie made in the 40s during World War II.
It definitely has. Johnston knows his period.
Yeah. Or at least a version of it as was sold to us through American films.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The film is very informed by World War II pictures.
Right.
And
America's attitude toward it.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
Largely. And you get the feeling that they understood the movie. Unlike Thor, they understood the movie that they had.
Right, and they understood the character. They understood what to do with the character.
And it seemed like they started with that famous cover of Captain America socking Hitler on the jaw.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they started.
Pretty much, yeah.
And they said, we want the feeling of that.
Mm-hmm.
And building the character from there. And not having him be a rousing success from the beginning, because I like the idea of a 98-pound weakling with a good heart.
The effects in this that made him look that...
That never bothered me.
No. I was going to say that they're
me.
great.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Not nominated for an Academy Award either.
Yeah, well...
Well.
I think one of my favorite scenes is when he's like, I got beat up in that alley. And that alley. And that
alley.
And that...
And
I don't like a bully, man. Ugh.
I threw him into my platoon because I thought they seemed like a pet, like a gerbil. Tommy Lee Jones is great in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I should mention this, all of the movies that we're talking about today, and I play this little game. There's an Oscar winner in the cast of every single one of these movies that we're talking about today. Iron Man had Jeff Bridges.
Who didn't win until 2 years after, but still... Right. And Gwyneth Paltrow.
What was the second? Incredible Hulk had William Hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man 2... Let's see, who was it in Iron Man 2? Oh, Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Thor had Natalie Portman.
Mm-hmm.
This one has Tommy Lee Jones.
And Anthony Hopkins.
Mm-hmm. This one has Tommy Lee Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one is Gwyneth Paltrow. So you can spot an Oscar winner in every one of these.
Well, but, Iron Man has Gwyneth Paltrow. What the Avengers has more nominated than win.
Yeah.
Still does.
But I
have
try to
power.
find a different Oscar winner in each one.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Paltrow was the only one that had won her Oscar before they started filming.
yeah.
Portman
Now-
won hers while they were filming.
Now, I don't know. I'm just going to say this. I don't know what went into the production of this. Because I don't know if they learned their lesson from the other films or not. But this is more lighthearted.
Mhm.
It's more good-hearted. The spirit of it is wonderful.
It's more like Iron Man in that it's not kind of draggy. And,
It's more like Iron Man if it were waving the flag.
right. But it's not ostentatiously waving the flag.
Right.
It's
Right.
It's kind of John.
It's doing it for a reason.
It's kind of John Prying it. It's like, your what's that one song that he did, your your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore
Mhm. Yeah.
because the wars that you've had have filled it up.
Mhm.
It's that kind of flag wave.
And I like the idea, and I really like the idea that, yes, they're fighting Hitler, but there's this other element that's probably even worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was so worried going into this of how Red Skull was going to look.
They did a really good
They did a
job with it.
really good job, and Hugo Weaving is wonderful as Red Skull.
Hugo Weaving is wonderful, period.
But
Did
it's
you ever see? There's a movie that you should see if you're interested in a very very offbeat Hugo Weaving performance. Check out The Dressmaker with Kate Winslet. It's an Australian picture. That
Never seen that one.
Amazon released it in 2015, 16, somewhere in there. Not hugely known, but I think it's on Amazon. It was one of their original pictures. He plays this police officer. It's so much fun. He ends up being well, I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
It's a charming picture. It's not great, but it is fun, and it has
a fun
Hemsworth.
evening.
Yeah. It's a nice little picture, but it has a really fun performance from Weaving that that I highly recommend. But yeah,
But I love the
works.
theme
Yeah.
of the importance of overturning bullies who want to march across the world. I like the idea of Captain America could easily have been a bully himself, but he's not.
And that's why Erskine picked
Right.
Rogers,
Right.
because he saw that the power would not overtake him, that he
Right.
would actually be responsible with the level of power he would be imbuing in him, which is exactly what Red Skull was not.
Right.
It was the exact
just-
opposite.
Just pulling that idea out and getting person for the Captain America program. Which, by the way, I like the fact that it's not undone.
Yeah.
Because usually in a movie like this, there's a flaw in the technology and something happens. But I like the fact that it's he's still the same good person,
Yeah.
despite the fact that he can go in and still beat up bullies.
He can stop a truck with his bare hands.
Only have one minor problem with this movie,
Oh, yeah?
and it is a small one, but I think it's significant. The very first scene of the movie tells you exactly how it's going to end.
Yeah, it does.
And I hate that.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It just completely, when he goes down in the Arctic, and you're just like, okay, I know the other end of this story already.
And it does take a lot of the punch out of the end.
Yeah.
I guess they felt like they had to explain why this movie from set in the 40s is going to be relevant to everything else. But
I do like it when he wakes up and he hears the baseball game on the radio.
Yeah. He's like, no, I was there. This is not right. Like,
The girl playing the officer's not ready for this.
yeah, she's like,
What I love also is, first of all, two things. One, his outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Captain America outfit in the comics looks ridiculous.
And they did a very good job at mimicking it.
Right. Getting rid of those stupid wings.
Yeah.
They did a very good job of retooling it so it would be a utility outfit and not that stupid looking.
The one that he goes on stage with.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love is I love the relationship he builds with Peggy.
Yeah.
I am so sorry her TV show never really... It was such a good show.
It was a good show, and, I guess because of lady parts, it didn't quite get the viewership it should have.
It should have been streaming instead of on network.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll revive it for Disney Plus.
The other thing is, they have such a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They have such a wonderful relationship together. And you remember it.
Yeah.
And you remember the two of them, and they have a chemistry together. So much so that when we got to the end, my wife saw the end game for the first time the other night.
Oh.
And we were sitting there, and when
he gets his dance, it's just...
You see old Steve sitting there, and my wife just said, "He finally got that dance."
Yeah.
That it has such an arc that starts here.
It does. Rogers and Stark have the best character arcs.
They do.
In this.
Thor gets one too. Thor
gets a dandy, but it takes his a little while to get going.
Yeah, to get off the ground.
Yeah.
They all do.
They all
really.
do.
I mean, Bruce had
Even
one.
Banner, yeah.
But I just love this movie so much. It's kind of an innocent little movie. It's not.
It's a kind of a cheesy, old-fashioned movie, but that's exactly what it needed to be.
Right.
And it stands out. It definitely stands out.
But now we got the team up, because our last film is, and I want to make sure I say this right, Marvel's The Avengers.
That's only so that they don't think Sean Connery is going to show up in a goddamn teddy bear outfit.
Right.
A note to anyone who doesn't know about that, there was a terrible 1998 movie with Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman based on a British television show about spies called The Avengers. The show was kind of marvelous. In
that wonderful British comedy kind of way.
Yeah. It was kind of a little marvelous show. The movie did not translate.
The movie is a mess.
Oh, it's terrible. And I guess because it shares the name, they wanted to make sure that nobody searching for The Avengers would find the terrible Ralph Fiennes, Uma Thurman, Sean Connery one.
So when the title for this movie happens, it is Marvel's.
Yeah.
The Avengers.
Yeah.
And this is the first one, I think, that's solely made and produced by Disney.
No.
If I'm not mistaken.
No.
No?
It's not. It was the first one produced or distributed by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
But Iron Man 3 was the first full Disney bought and paid for production.
Okay. We'll get to that one next week.
That one we might have a disagreement.
They do a very good job of bringing them all together.
Yes.
The problem with this movie is it's hard to go back to.
After everything that happened.
After everything that's happened. There have now been 4 Avengers movies.
Yeah.
Well, 5 technically, because let's face it, Captain America: Civil War was an Avengers movie.
It was a mini Avengers movie. You know.
But this one, they knew what they wanted.
Hmm.
They give equal distribution to the characters.
And they got a damn good writer director to pull this all together.
Right. Right.
I love. There was an interview with Joss Whedon when he was doing this, and he said, Serenity was his first feature film
Yeah.
based on the Firefly television show,
Hmm.
and he said, for my first film, I ended up having to go back, retread, and reintroduce characters that I'd already spent 13 episodes introducing.
Right.
And I vowed to myself that I would never, ever take on a movie again where I had to reintroduce characters that had already been introduced. And
Right.
what do? My next picture?
Introduce
I'm doing the
characters.
exact same thing that I did before.
He does so well with female characters that I'm almost sorry that he never got his Batgirl movie made.
And Wonder Woman. He was
and Wonder
going to do
Woman.
Wonder Woman, too.
But he's so good with female characters.
Hmm.
But here, it was so dazzling when it came out. But now that you know everything that's coming, it feels like you're binge watching and you're going back an episode.
Yeah.
Because basically they're trying to throw everybody together.
Hmm.
They're trying to not reintroduce everybody, but introduce everybody to each other.
Right.
And try to get them all in the same room,
Hmm.
which they do effectively. And they make some mistakes that they have to correct later.
Hmm.
The biggest one is killing off Coulson.
Yeah.
Because that TV series had to jump through hoops to get him back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it was very complicated.
Hmm.
The whole Tahiti thing.
Yeah.
I dropped out of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. somewhere in, I want to say, the middle of season 3 or 4, whatever the season before Ghost Rider. I got halfway through and just
I dropped off about the point where Bill Paxton's character got killed.
I was there for a few more episodes after that, but it was the black sticky pus from the X-Files was now the main villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once Ward came back for like the 17th time, I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done.
Was the Ward one that had brain damage?
No, Ward was the one that was the double agent, the triple agent, the flippy back and forth, the pretty guy that just...
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I got fed up and I dropped the show, but yeah, they really had to... Yeah.
Again, that show should have been streaming.
Well, that was before a lot of streaming stuff was really...
And I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. I will say that the only problem I have with it is I sincerely wish that this movie had come up with a third act that wasn't smash and bash trashing New York.
Right.
That's a standard.
Yeah, this was the movie that made me really... This and Iron Man 2 and this were the movies that made me really turn off. I never really liked property damage.
Yeah.
Movie, like, I didn't want to see these things blowing up. But Iron Man 2, when they were in that parking lot, when they fly by and all of the alarms go off and then they all blow up, that was the first time I ever thought bad for the people who owned those cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everything that goes on in the Avengers, it's like I can't be happy for a victory that cost so much.
I am largely bored by wholesale destruction.
Yeah.
It happened in a movie we talked about earlier. Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
It's this. You go into a populated area and you smash and bash trash buildings. I don't know if it has to do with 9/11 or what, but I get bored and restless with wholesale destruction because I'm thinking to myself, the writers have given up.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that saves this third act is
Now this one's not bad.
No. He knows what was expected.
Yeah.
The big smash and bash was expected.
Mm.
And then he works in some really poignant character pieces.
He does. He does.
Into all of this melee that makes it at least necessary fighting.
Yeah.
And not just, well, we have to do this because this is the end of the movie.
But after you've seen Endgame,
Wow.
this doesn't play the same way.
Listen, after you see Endgame, the only thing that has a comparable ending is Rise of Skywalker, when 8 billion people come out of hyperspace to shoot at the Final Order fleet. Like, that's the only thing that could be relative to the end of Endgame. Like,
so many stairs!
I mean, I love that.
But I'll give it this. At least it's trying to have a point and you're not just ripping up Harlem because.
Right.
The only thing that really gets me is there's a guy in a metal suit with rockets.
Mhm.
There's a 15-foot green behemoth smashing whatever's flying around. There's a guy with a shield who's basically indestructible, and then you have a guy with a bow and arrow.
Listen, he brings that up himself. That is actually my favorite moment in Age of Ultron. When he's talking to Wanda and he goes, look at this. They're basically gods, and I have a bow and arrow. I shouldn't be here. But I am because it's my job and that's what we're going to do. He says it. And he brings it up in this too. He's like, what can I do?
He brought a pea shooter to the Battle of Endor.
He brings that up. Like, he knows how insignificant he is, and he does not know why he's there.
Right.
But he fights anyway, and I gotta give it to him.
And by the way, where's Hawkeye's movie?
Oh man, right?
Where's Hawkeye's movie?
The way that they developed him, especially in Age of Ultron.
I want to see a movie where he goes rogue.
Well, it was the beginning of Endgame.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I want to see that movie. A little darker movie where he just goes rogue and he's going around the world just killing people. Yeah. But it's a good movie. The problem is that now that you've seen the larger picture, it's hard to see it by itself.
The whole of the MCU is hard to see by itself now.
Right.
It's
hard to enjoy it the way you did back in 2012.
Each picture furthers the whole story, but it also takes you further away from the beginning.
Right.
This isn't like rewatching Star Wars.
Yeah. It's hard to watch the first Star Wars by itself.
Yeah. But I think it holds up. The Avengers is still an entertaining picture.
It is.
If you just do all 4 Avengers movies, they still have a damn good emotional arc.
Right.
Like, as a series in and of themselves, apart from the MCU, it's a good franchise by itself within the 4 pictures that they've made.
Well, I'll say this. I love the fact that when they put these together, there was a plan.
Mm-hmm.
They put them together without just throwing them out there
Right.
like DC had to.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood why
Well,
DC.
they didn't have to.
I never understood why DC didn't follow that same protocol. I never understood
Because
that.
They started off behind the 8 ball.
Mm.
They, in a lot of ways, I think kind of rightfully felt the need to skip over a lot
Mhm.
of origin stuff, because if I see Bruce Wayne's parents killed one more time,
I'm gonna kill him myself.
and this is coming from me.
From Mr. Batman
Yeah,
fans.
I
yeah.
mean, and if I have to see Superman crash land as a baby one more time, like, none of that is necessary. Their stories are so well known.
Mhm.
They don't need an origin story for their characters.
But you can establish them in their own movie, as Marvel did.
Yes.
The thing about DC is they were much better on television.
Oh yeah.
Um,
They're better in animation.
strangely enough, Marvel is not.
No, Marvel's animated stuff is okay,
Mhm.
and their television is fine.
It's all right.
The stuff on Netflix was way better than the stuff that was on NBC.
That's what I was going to talk about, because those shows, that's the darker
Mhm.
MCU that I really liked,
Yeah,
and I
Now
miss those.
now it's gone.
Now it's gone.
But DC's animated universe
Mhm.
is spectacular.
Yeah.
The way that they interweave everything, and the individual Batman animated movies half tie into the Justice League ones.
Yeah.
And they've done an excellent job at building a universe like the MCU in their animation,
Yeah.
not in their live action.
DC has had. I mean, you remember the beginning. The DC made one bad movie after another.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They finally got on their feet with Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
But Batman v Superman was so bad. It was a 500-pound movie, and it was terrible.
I find I've rewatched it
Mhm.
several times. I only like it for the coming together of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Everything else about it,
It's incomprehensible.
it's incoherent.
It's incoherent.
It throws one thing after another. It tried to be 72 different movies.
Mhm.
And anyway, I'm sure
It's a
eventually we'll-
500-pound movie sitting on a 2-pound script.
Right. And I'm sure we'll get to the DCEU
Oh,
at
God.
some point. The best part is that the bright spots are at the tail end of it.
Yeah. We're finally getting the good ones 10
Right.
years too late.
Right, yeah, well. But yeah, the Avengers, nothing will ever beat that final shot at the end of the credits.
Yeah.
When they're eating shawarma in silence.
That's so great. That made me try shawarma, and now I'm in love with it.
I actually, one of my possible quotes was, "Okay, hey, yay, we did it. Let's just take tomorrow. Let's just take a day. Hey, there's a new shawarma place not too far from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
while he's crash landed to Earth.
Well, he's like stuck in his suit. He can't move.
Yeah. But these movies, they took a while to get on their feet.
Yeah.
But there was nothing so detrimental that you just... I really didn't want to watch Thor again. I really didn't want to watch Iron Man 2 again.
Damn.
I'm happy though that next week the quality went up.
The quality does noticeably go up in Phase 2. And
I don't even know what's in Phase 2.
Well, we've got Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World.
I may take that back.
Iron Man
'Cause I
3,
hate Iron Man
Thor:
3.
The Dark World, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy,
Which
and
nobody expected.
and Age of Ultron. So there's some hits and there's some misses, but there's more hits than misses. This is kind of the middle part where they were like, do we really know what we're doing?
Well, I'll say this. I'm happy, and this is kind of a preview of Phase 2, is that I'm happy that they're willing to take chances.
Mm-hmm.
Because who really... Your average movie fan probably had never heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I had never heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I collected comic books, and when I was going through my old comic books, I had issues of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I had never heard of them, yet somehow I had bought their comics.
And also to that you
didn't
can
read
say...
them.
And also to that you can say, there was nobody sitting around going, gee, I wish they'd make an Ant-Man movie.
Well, except Edgar Wright was the
Well,
only
you know what I'm
one.
talking about.
Edgar Wright
But
and Simon Pegg were the only ones going, let's make an Ant-Man movie.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like nobody was going, oh, gee, I wish they'd make Ant-Man.
Yeah,
You know, there wasn't a demand for it.
No.
But they made it, and it was good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, they try things.
Oh, yeah, Ant-Man's in Phase 2 as well.
Yeah.
Ant-Man finished.
So that's what we're going to talk about next week.
I'm excited about that. There's some really good ones in there.
So next week we're going to talk about Phase 2, and then the last 2 weeks of this month we're going to break Phase 3 into 2 parts.
Phase 3, Profit.
Because there are like 15 films in there.
There's a lot. There's about 10.
And they're just starting Phase 4. Well, they haven't started Phase 4 yet because
They're going to start Phase 4 at some point in the future.
Black Widow is a big question mark right now.
Yeah. But that's all I have.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, you can find all of our back episodes at the podbaydorspodcast.wordpress.com. You can listen to us on iTunes and on YouTube. Let's not jump ahead in the script there. You can find us on Twitter at pod_bay. Copy and paste that and stick that in Patreon. You can find us there at the same handle. We thank you so very much for joining us in the Pod Bay. Doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.